Hey bro, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and I just got done watching episode 5 of season 4 of The Boys, and some of these plot lines continue to be, feels like dead ends. Some of them got concluded, which I will say, at least the Huey plotline got concluded in a really interesting way, and we got more setup for probably what the rest of the season's gonna be about, and we finally, I feel like, more concretely got like some tie-in with Gen V. So if you haven't watched Gen V, this might feel a little hollow to you. I recommend you do watch Gen V. It was a good show. But now we're really seeing like the tie-in, the crossover of like why that was important. And it all starts with this episode. Okay, so first, I think the easiest one to go over would probably be Huey's storyline. So for this entire season so far, it felt like Huey was very much on the sidelines. You know, his dad was in the hospital, so kind of understandably, like, yeah, he's not going to go on these missions with the rest of the characters. But that sort of just left his character alone with his mom, who for a while, some people out there thought maybe the mom was imaginary, because we know that Butcher is seeing hallucinations of his dead wife, and there's also another character that might be a hallucination. So some people thought maybe Huey's also hallucinating his mom. This episode seems to disprove that she really is real, because his dad wakes up and sees her also. So I guess that means she's still there. She really is there. And I gotta say, this one was interesting for him because, you know, his dad seems to get better because his mom put the compound V inside of him, and he woke up. And then, of course, things slowly start going horribly wrong. He's like being able to phase through things, but he can't control himself. And also his brain is still like, he's slowly losing his memory. And, you know, a lot of this is kind of reminiscent of real world ailments that some people might have to go through with their parents. And it's really sad. So even though I felt like this storyline was kind of just putting Huey on the back burner and it's not really related to the overall plot and he's kind of just on the sidelines, it did end in a really satisfying way. It was really sad and touching, and you got like these last moments with his dad, and, you know, even though things got crazy, he did get a couple moments of normalcy, you know, so he got to have like these last conversations with his dad and his mom being there, and there was at least some nice moments, even though a couple people died. But this is The Boys, and it is kind of funny that we're at this point with The Boys where like someone will die, even accidentally, through the use of superpowers, and there's basically no consequences anymore. Like, sometimes they'll treat things as if, oh, these are gonna have consequences. I can't believe these people were murdered, these people were killed, and it was caught on camera or something. But more often than not, there's just no consequences for anything. Like, his dad accidentally phased through a bunch of people and there's blood everywhere, and then, you know, they end up like, you know, they end up agreeing to like, okay, we're gonna let him pass peacefully, that's how I'll put it. But, you know, so like in a really touching way, they were able to say goodbye, but there's no consequences going to be had for this. Like, a bunch of people in the hospital just died, you know, and like, you know, next episode, Huey and his mom are going to walk out of the hospital and everything's fine. Like, no one's even going to bring it up, probably, you know. And so it kind of feels like at the end of last season when Homelander killed that guy, and in between seasons, all the social media accounts were posting about how there's this ongoing trial and all this stuff. And then when the show actually starts, the trial pretty much ends immediately and he's fine. Like, there's no real consequences for superheroes killing people or people dying in general. You know, essentially, you have your main characters and your superheroes, and then everyone else is just Star Trek red shirts. That's what they are. So it's just, I don't know. It's funny at this point because it's just like, okay, it doesn't really matter if a bunch of people died. That's just what the show is. Anyways, so now that storyline's wrapped up, I am hoping that Huey kind of gets back into the trenches with the rest of the characters, and we can, you know, the show needs to focus a little bit, is what I'm saying. Like, we have like all these little ongoing story arcs for different characters, which normally that's a nice thing, but like, it feels more like the writers just needed these characters to be on the back burner because, like, okay, this character doesn't have anything to do with the main plot right now, so you need to go back there and just chill out for like 4 episodes while the rest of the characters can go do other stuff. And that was kind of what was happening. Same thing with like Frenchie and Kimiko, right? Frenchie confessed his murder of his boyfriend's family. Like, he murdered all of them, and of course, you know, that guy's gone, and they just bring it up like, oh, he left, and he's like, yeah, he left, and now Frenchie's doing a lot more drugs, and so now he's got his drug problem again, right? And that kind of just feels like a storyline that didn't go anywhere, you know, because like, is this gonna affect anything? Like, is that guy gonna come back into the picture, and does he have like a bunch of I don't know, a bunch of information against the Starlighters, and he's gonna use that as revenge or something? Like, I don't know. Like, is that gonna go anywhere? Is Frenchie having a drug problem gonna go anywhere? Like, is that gonna cause? I don't know. It feels like we've been through that before. You know, like it just kind of feels like they don't have anything for this character to do, so they're like, I don't know, just give him something to do for like 5 episodes, give him some kind of arc. I don't know. And same thing with Kimiko and this other girl who was also a survivor from where she was taken and experimented on. It's like, okay, I don't know. Is this? I'm sure that this will all come back at the end in some small way. But again, we have our main plot, and the main plot is really interesting. But it's just really obvious that like there's so many characters at this point, and you don't want to like write them out of the show, and you don't want to have them disappear for like 4 episodes, so you still got to give them something to do. But it's just kind of clear, like, all right, we got too many characters, we got to start killing some people off. I think, unfortunately, I think we do have to start killing off some characters, because like there's too many. Not everyone can have an arc, not all of it can be meaningful. Anyways, so let's get to like the actual juice of the plot. So first we have all of our Vought crew, right, the 7. And what they do this episode is actually pretty brilliant. I think this is my favorite thing of the episode. They do essentially the D23. You know, they have the whole presentation where this guy, who they treat him like Kevin Feige in this episode, but normally he's the Fox News anchor, so he's kind of being both, which is weird, right? Because like, if anyone's the Kevin Feige, like, wouldn't it be Homelander? Like, isn't he the Kevin Feige of Vought? But whatever. Or Ashley, I guess. But instead, they got the character who's been essentially the Fox News anchor to be the Kevin Feige, and he comes out and he presents like, here's our next here's all our movies, here's 7 through 19 of all our phases, and here's we're gonna, they have Tech Night come out, and they're like, okay, here it's been 1 year since my movie, it's time for a reboot, the Tech Night, so they're poking fun at Warner Brothers and Marvel in a big way, and Disney in a big way. They have this thing where, if you're white, the brands that you're gonna see in our movies is this drink, and then if you're black, the brand you're gonna see is this drink, and like it's just like that kind of like I don't even know, like the most racist shit in the world. It's they're poking fun at like the most cynical way you can view all of these like attempts to be inclusive and like still market things, still, because it's a business, it's just about selling you things, right? But it's just the most cynical, messed up way you can take that, and it was really funny. So I think for me, that was kind of this episode's biggest strength, and I think that's something that you have a large contingent of people out there who are really mad at Disney and they're really mad at Marvel, and I think when they watch this show, that's all they see. And then, kind of in a funny way, those same people watch the stuff when they're clearly talking about Trump and MAGA and all that stuff. When they're clearly poking fun at that, those same people get really mad. How dare they poke fun at this, So, I don't know. I think it's like, this show it's satire, right? It's kind of making fun of Disney. It's making fun of these large corporate entities. Which, again, it's ironic because this is an Amazon TV show. I think they've made a couple of Amazon jokes, but not that many. You can clearly, I don't know if it was like passed down, be like, hey, don't make fun of Amazon. I don't know if that was like a thing. They've made fun of streaming services, even though this is on a streaming service. So, I don't know. I'm kind of waiting for that also. Like, are they gonna... they don't have like an Amazon parallel, really. I guess Vought is just meant to be a stand-in for all large corporate entities. So like, yeah, we're gonna make fun of Disney, we're gonna make fun of Marvel, We made fun of Warner Brothers plenty. You know, the whole Rise of the Seven. It's the Justice League movie. You know, that infamously went horribly wrong. Anyways, I really enjoyed all that. That was really funny. And meanwhile, we have this subplot where like A-Train had gotten the footage of those murders to our heroes, and now they're kind of trying to figure out who's the mole inside Vought, who's giving these guys the footage, and who's leaking our information. And I gotta say this, the tension of like A-Train trying to get away with this, and now he's kind of teaming up with Ashley to try and like, hey, watch my back, try to cover me. We got to blame someone else because, you know, the smartest person in the world she definitely knows that it's me. So like, we need to try to like get someone else to blame, right? Because Sister Sage obviously knows it's A-Train. Like, she's not even being subtle about that. She's just got to prove it. I guess my thing is, the footage that he stole, it was really just to get a couple of Starlighters out of prison and not being blamed for the murders, right? Like, that's all that was. So while the tension of him trying to get away with all this and not be found out that he's helping those guys, while that's really interesting, the fact that the only thing he did so far is just like, oh, I stole some footage and I guess I saved Huey for a second, but like, I don't know, he hasn't done much else to like really make this like, I guess he stole the V, right? Okay, he went in Homelander's apartment and he stole the V. I don't know. I guess I'm waiting for something to like really like, oh, he stole vital information that can bring down Vought, and like that's so substantial, and now that was like a high risk thing worth A-Train possibly getting killed over. I don't know. It just seems the tension is not entirely earned, I guess. It doesn't feel that way. Like, it feels like A-Train should be constantly like giving them more and more important information, and he's almost getting caught every time. And then now he has to partner up with Ashley, and they end up blaming the Kevin Feige guy, and they kill him, right? Which I guess they planted a phone call to Mother's Milk on his phone, and that's how they got that. Which, of course, then kind of begs the question of like, what exactly is preventing the Seven from just going out and tracking down the boys? Like, I'm kind of unclear at this point. Like, why don't they just, if they know Mother's Milk and the rest of the boys is like actively working against them, obviously Homelander and Butcher have their own personal beef that they've agreed to, like, we're gonna handle this ourselves. I'm just wondering, like, what is preventing targets from being on the rest of these guys? Like, I don't even know at this point, because they're just like operating on their own, and it feels like in 2 seconds the Seven could go and find the boys and kind of end the show, and I don't know, maybe I missed something, but like, what is preventing them from doing that? Anyways, so A-Train's safe for now. Obviously he's gonna get caught, or Sister Sage is gonna find some proof, because she definitely knows it's him. So I guess there's tension in that, but again, it feels like A-Train should be finding more important, more vital to Vought information, and then it's like, oh, I got this information to them at the last second, and then I got killed, and that was like, oh, but this is like gonna end Vought or something. I don't know. But I will say Homelander does kind of, he's had like a growth, which is weird. He's had like this growing period after his, let's call it a therapeutic session after visiting his home, because he murdered all those people that essentially tortured him as a kid, all those scientists. And now he's going to Ryan and he's be like, hey, look, you know what? I was manipulated as a kid, and I never really had a choice. And I realize now that I've been doing that same thing to you. I've been trying to manipulate you. So you know what do you want to do? And now, and obviously in the twisted, sick Homelander way, he is actually giving Ryan a choice and being like really genuine with him, and be like, look, you say what you want to do, and we can just do it. And for now, that's working, right? Because Ryan says, I want to help people, and they end up like I don't know, I guess you would say the J.J. Abrams parody character, but he's also like a Weinstein kind of guy. Like, he's just meant to be a stand-in for all the, he's like making fun of J.J. Abrams, but then they also put in a lot of the darker, like, messed up stuff. You hear those stories in Hollywood happen, like, he's that guy, I don't remember the character's name, but he's the director. He's been in like all the seasons so far. Anyways, apparently he was like hitting on some I guess, helper, assistant person, and obviously inappropriate stuff going down probably. And so Ryan just has him like, hey, you sit down. Hey, you slap the hell out of him. Just keep going. And so he's not dead yet. I feel like this is just a comedic character they like torturing in the show, so they're not going to kill him off yet. But, you know, Homelander's slowly getting Ryan to be like, okay, this is our version of justice. This like hyper violent justice. And it's only, you know, if Homelander can get Ryan to push that a little bit more, then he'll be on the, oh, we're just gonna kill people kind of Homelander train, right? So he's like almost there, and you can tell Homelander's like, oh, it's working. By letting Ryan choose to do this, we can kind of choose how he, you know, he's like, maybe you should punish him. Maybe he needs to get punished. And so now he's like getting Ryan to inflict, or at least influence, violence between people. So the whole, they're just, you know, humans are just toys for us to play with kind of thing. You can tell it's slowly starting to work on Ryan now. Now it's getting scary because like he's only a couple steps away from just being a murderer, right? So I don't know. It's cool to get an update on like how that's gonna go, because that again feels like the main plot. Whatever happens to Ryan, if he's good or evil, that's kind of the direction that the show has to go after this. Like this next final season, it's gonna be like, does Ryan help them or does he become Homelander too, right? Meanwhile, our good guys, the rest of them, not Huey, they finally caught up with this virus. So basically, I suppose you'd have to say this is after we see Butcher at the end of Gen V. He's in the compound, he sees the virus. I suppose this would be after that. And he now knows about the virus, and he's gonna go try and find it, but he knows that Newman has it, so they get Edgar out of prison, and then he sends them to this farm where they actually encounter Newman's there, and all of them agree to like, hey, look, yeah, you're looking for the virus, we're looking for the virus, and they kind of agree to look together because no one knows what happened to it. They were experimenting on it at this farm, but they lost all communication, and of course they get there, a bunch of dead bodies, a bunch of animals that are you know, souped up with Temp V, which is pretty funny. You know, you got chickens that are killing people, and then sheep that are like flying around crazy, which I don't know if that, like, I guess you'd have to just assume that Temp V affects animals differently than it does humans, because it seems to have driven them like rabid, right? Whereas humans, not necessarily, you know, although I guess you could say like, yeah, Huey and Butcher were not acting totally normal last season, so maybe they were kind of rabid. Anyways, so that's basically the situation. They come across the main scientist, who turns out to actually be the father of Newman's kid, and as they're all escaping from these flying sheep, and they end up injecting a body with the virus, and the sheep start dying, that seems to be the last of it, right? That seems to be like, okay, there's no more virus, we had to inject it into this dead body. Although now I have to imagine, like, couldn't you take the sheep? Couldn't you take like a body of a sheep, and like this body's still infected with the virus, right? Like I don't know. I don't know how viruses work. I don't know if the virus would like slowly start dying because, like, I don't know, because it doesn't have because it starts dying because the host is dying. Is that how that works? Like, why couldn't you just take one of the dead sheep's bodies and being like, hey, look, this thing has the virus inside of it, like this, right? No, I don't know. I'm not a virologist or whatever. I don't know how that works, but in any case, so they all leave, and they think that the scientist died off screen, which of course means he's not dead. They find his severed leg, and they're like, oh my god, the sheep must have got him. So Newman ends up helping, oh man, what's his name? Gustavo Fring. Giancarlo Esposito's character. I can't believe I forgot it. Edgar, right. She ends up helping Edgar escape. He was about to get taken back to jail, so now they're teaming up again, or at least that's her father figure, so she's gonna keep him around because she thinks that she just lost her essential, I don't know if they were actually married, but her husband, basically, the scientist guy. And of course it turns out that Butcher actually severed his leg and took him. That way everyone thinks he's dead, but now he's got the guy who can make the virus, so that's pretty cool. And that seems to be the setup for the rest of the show. I think we have 3 episodes left, And I don't know at this point. I guess maybe this season ends with them successfully creating the virus, and that's what we're dealing with now. And I guess my only thing is that, like, it feels like this should have happened a couple episodes ago. It feels like we could have, like, we didn't need Huey to deal, like, his dad to die and have all that happen. It feels like we could have gotten to the virus thing 2 episodes earlier, and that could have been a much more forward thing. It feels kind of late to get to this, but okay. Also, Butcher's friend is Jeffrey Dean Morgan. It feels like he might be also a hallucination. A lot of people have pointed out that, like, hey, I don't think anyone but Butcher has actually talked to this guy or encountered this guy. So it's possible, but also, you know, we all kind of thought Huey's mom was a hallucination, so I don't know. I don't want to get on this train of, like, everyone's a hallucination, you know, like, 'cause it feels like that's an easy trap to get into. But in any case, you know, I still enjoy the show. I'm still, like, writing for, like, the main plot. I am okay with these side plots to kind of just go away, because it does feel like they're spinning their wheels. They're just like, we have a lot of characters to juggle, we have a lot of plots set up we want to get to. I don't know. But when the show is doing its classic thing of, like, we're poking fun at Disney, we're poking fun at Marvel, we're poking fun at Warner Brothers and DC, and, you know, just the whole major conglomerates, cinematic universes and all, like, that feels like when the show's is at its strongest. You know, and it does kind of feel like the shock value is running thin now. I think a lot of people out there can kind of sense that, where it's like these deaths that just happen and you're supposed to be shocked by them, especially when you kind of show glimpses of it in the trailer, they definitely lose their effect, right? Like these chickens attacking people and these sheep attacking people, like, we saw this stuff in the trailer and we're like, okay, like, it's killing a bunch of red shirt nameless characters, and again, it feels like those deaths don't have any consequences. People just die now and it doesn't seem to matter. So it's like, all right, like, I guess I'm supposed to be shocked right now, but I'm not really. So I don't know. I am ready for the show to just, like, let's get to the virus, let's get to, like, what's happening with Ryan, let's, you know what I mean, let's stick with, like, the main focus thing. A-Train, I like the tension of, like, oh, he might be discovered as the mole, but, like, it feels like he hasn't, you know, what did he ultimately take? He took a vial of V for Huey's dad, and that plotline wrapped up really quickly, and that was kind of, you know, it was sad, but it ultimately didn't mean much in the way of, like, either of these sides getting a one-up on each other. It was kind of a personal thing. And he took that footage that prevented some people from going to jail, but do those characters even have names? Like, who, you know what I mean? Like, it feels like nothing of much consequence has happened with him being the mole. Like, he saved Huey that one time. That's, like, the biggest thing that happened. He got him out of that tight spot. So A-Train needs to start, like, doing more impactful things for the good guys in order for the threat of him being discovered to feel more meaningful. I guess that's what I'm trying to get across. Anyways, let me know what you guys think about The Boys episode 5. What are you looking forward to? I think we have 3 episodes left. I don't know how quickly they're gonna, like, they gotta, like, develop the virus all over again, which seems kind of crazy because, like, this is our last dose and now we don't have any more. And I guess that's a way of getting it away from Newman, and now Butcher's the only one with the scientist who can actually make it again. But still, it kind of feels like, you know, so we're gonna have to spend 3 episodes and see him occasionally trying to make it, and Butcher threatening him, and he's like, okay, I'm trying to make it, okay. And then, like, what? The season ends with him holding up a vial, be like, we did it! And this time it's strong enough to kill Homelander. Like, I don't know, is that... It feels like that's the direction it's gonna go. Which, okay, I guess. I don't know. And also, how do you know it's not strong enough to kill Homelander? Like, unless you've tried it on Homelander, how do you know that? You know, like, these sheep die. You know, the sheep were super strong and they were flying and stuff. Like, why is Homelander stronger than these sheep, for example? Like, if you sent, like, 5 of these sheep after Homelander, couldn't, like, it feels like that would be kind of a challenge. Like, they're flying around and they're super strong also. I don't know. I guess and this is just more of a general kind of thing I have against the show sometimes, is that like the scale of power never seems to like be explained so thoroughly. Like Homelander's like the strongest guy ever, but then we have other, I think I said this before, but we have other characters with super strength, and it never like, I don't know, like what is the power scale here? Like what are these sheep are really strong, but how much stronger is Homelander than these sheep, for example? And Starlight has some level of super strength, stronger than Firecracker, or stronger than, like, I don't know. Anyways, just general complaints I have about the show. It feels like the universe and the rule setting could be a little bit more detailed. But anyways, let me know what you guys think about the show so far and where this is going. Are you kind of feeling some of the impact of the shock value wear down, and some of these characters are just kind of on hiatus, just spinning their wheels, just like, okay, waiting for my important part of the plot to show up? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.